Hello everyone, this is Prayana Subba, Assistant Professor in the Department of History, Salesian College, Sonada. Tuning into Radio Salesian EduPod's lecture series. This is the fourth lecture for the topic Emergence of Successor States After the Downfall of Mughals. In the last three lectures, we talked about the rise and decline of the three regional powers. Those were Bengal, Hyderabad and Awadh. These three fell into the category of the kingdoms which were set up by the provincial governors of the Mughals. Today we are going to discuss the second category, or the kingdoms which were set up by the rebel states. Under this we will have a discussion of the Marathas and the Sikh power. Today we will start with the Marathas. So as we see that the Mughals were declining, Marathas were important power in the Deccan India. Like in the 17th century India, they were small kingdom in the western India which was formed by the legendary Maratha chief known as Shivaji. Okay, so he established Marathas under one leadership, and what was the importance about this power was that they had the potential to replace Mughals. Like they had the power to develop into a pan-Indian empire, but they did not do so because of their own weaknesses, in their own polity. So they could not do so. The Maratha polity was formed against the Muslim kingdom of Bijapur and the pressure of the mighty Mughal empire, mighty Mughal army by the Shivaji. But then, of course, we mentioned that they could have replaced Mughals as a next dynasty in the medieval India, but they did not do so because their interests were different, rather than forming a dynasty or an empire. So we see there was rise of Marathas under the leadership of Shivaji, but in today's lecture we are not going to deal with the rise of Marathas under Shivaji, but rather we are going to discuss the polity after the death of Shivaji in the year 1680. Shivaji died. During his whole lifetime he tried to have the independence of Marathas, free of control of the Mughals. So he had a constant battle with the Mughals, especially with Aurangzeb. But during his entire lifetime, his and Aurangzeb's also, Marathas were not subdued by the Mughals. After his death, we see his two sons Sambhaji and Rajaram ruled consequently, one after the other, and they also still had battles with Mughals. They had a constant battle with Mughals. But then Sambhaji also died after quite a while, and Rajaram also died. In the year 1699, when Rajaram finally died, his widow, Queen Tarabai, began to rule as a regent for his son Shivaji too. But when Tarabai was ruling as a regent of her son Shivaji too, the local powers, like those of the Deshmukhs or the revenue collectors, and those of the Jamindars, the local powers, they had a dwindling support over. Sometimes they would support Mughals, and the other times they would support Marathas. So their support was not stable. Aurangzeb was very much constant in driving Tarabai's force from one fort to the another one. But when he also finally died in the year 1707, the entire history of the Marathas took a different turn. Marathas were yet to be subjugated by the Mughals. Like until the death of Aurangzeb, he was not able to subjugate Marathas. So when Aurangzeb died in the year 1707, Sahu was released. Now, who was Sahu? Sahu was the son of the elder son of Shivaji. Like he was the grandson of Shivaji. Of course, on the other side, Shivaji too was also grandson of Shivaji. So now there was like contest for the throne of Chhatrapati. Shahu was the son of the elder son Sambhaji, and Shivaji too was the son of the younger son Rajaram, supported by his queen Tarabai. So there started a civil war between these two contenders. One was those of the Shahu, and the other one those of Shivaji too, supported by Tarabai. These Maratha Sardars, their support was constantly shifting from the two factions of Shahu and that of the Shivaji, and sometimes they would support Mughals. So their support was not stable, but still Shahu got the support of the group of new independent Sardars, and also from a number of banking families, and most importantly he got the support of Chitapavan Brahman Peshwa. He was Balaji Vishwanathan. Peshwa means Prime Minister. So with his support, Shahu finally became victorious. He emerged victorious and he became the Chhatrapati. And between the year 1718 and 19, he consolidated his positions very firmly. And by 1719, Balaji Vishwanathan secured Mughal Sanad, or the imperial order, for his master Shahu, recognizing Shahu's right to collect Chaut and Sardasmukhi from 6 Mughal provinces in the Deccan, and also Chaut from Malwa, Gujarat and Maharashtra. Now, what is this Chaut and Sardasmukhi? They were the type of taxes which were levied on the neighboring kingdoms by Marathas. So under the support and the leadership of Balaji Vishwanathan, Shahu was gaining a lot of power. So Shahu, what he also did was he helped Sayyid brothers to establish puppet emperor in Delhi. And then the contest with Tarabai was settled with the Treaty of Varna in 1731, where Shivaji too was given the state of Kolhapur. So now finally, with the help of Balaji Vishwanathan, Shahu had become very strong. He was Chhatrapati. But then what happened was, though there was end of civil war, but then there was constant shift of power from the hand of Chhatrapati to that of Peshwa. Like Peshwa was the prime minister, but we see like the power constantly shifted. Like Peshwa became more stronger than Chhatrapati after in the time of Balaji Vishwanathan also. Balaji Vishwanathan became the fountainhead of authority, though Shahu was still there, but he was not that very powerful. And he was also source of all patronage in the entire Maratha kingdom. When he died in the year 1720, he was succeeded by his son Baji Rao. Baji Rao, on whom the famous movie is also made, Baji Rao Mastani. He ruled from 1720 to 1740. Though his rule was very short-lived, it was only for 20 years, but it said that he never was defeated in any of the battles. So we see the rise of Peshwa under the leadership of Baji Rao now. So he controlled over large territory of the Mughal Empire. He won over many territories, and his only adversary at the time in the south was Nizam of Hyderabad. He had contest over Karnataka, Khandesh and Gujarat, but finally he was victorious in the Battle of Phalked in March 1728, where Nizam had to recognize Shahu's right to Chaut and Sardasmukhi over Deccan. He also acquired fertile lands of Malwa, Rajasthan in the year 1729. He also collected taxes from Gujarat, ramping its lucrative trade. With two treaties in 1729 and 28, Mughals recognized over 60% of revenue right of Gujarat to Shahu and his Peshwa. Peshwa Baji Rao was also victorious over the combined forces of Gujarat and those of Nizam of Hyderabad in the year 1731. Like he defeated the combined forces of Gujarat and Hyderabad also. In the year 1736, he gained control over coastal territories of Siddhis or the Abyssinian Muslims. He also drove Portuguese out of Salcete, Bassein and Chaul. In the year 1737, he attacked Delhi, and he was also able to held emperor captive for a while. In 1738, he defeated huge Mughal army. In 1739, with the Treaty of Bhopal, he won over the Suba of Malwa, and the land between Narmada and Chambal was settled with the yearly payment. But unfortunately, in the year 1740, he was sick and he then died. So his career was short-lived, but then his career was very important in the Maratha history, and it is believed that he never was defeated in any of the battle, and it took the Maratha glory to the peak. Next, he was succeeded by his son Balaji Bajirao, who is most famous, popularly known as Nana Sahib in history. He ruled from 1740 to 1761 until the Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. But Nana Sahib was more experienced over administration than in military affairs. But however, he was among the most successful among all the Peshwas. When Sahu died in 1741, he became the supreme authority of power in Maratha polity. At that time, Maratha was at its highest glory or peak, apex. At that time, during the time of the rule of Nana Sahib as the Peshwa, North India faced a number of Maratha depredations. In the year 1745, from the year 1745 onwards, Marathas made a lot of raids into Bengal also under the leadership of Raghuji Bhonsle of Nagpur. Regular raids were made to Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Finally, a treaty was settled with Alivardi Khan in 1751. This one we discussed while we were talking about Bengal, rise of Bengal also. In 1751 they signed a treaty, and finally Orissa was surrendered, and also Chowth over rupees 1,20,000 was agreed upon to Marathas. Nana Sahib regularly raided Nizam's territory of Konkan also and extracted tribute from there also, but he never fully subdued them. That was his intention. Like, he would extract tribute from every place, but never would subdue that region completely. In 1751, with Treaty of Bhalke with Salabat Jung, the new Nizam of Khandes, he took the entire control over that region also. Further north, he made regular raids in the Rajput kingdoms of Jaipur, Bundi, Kota, Udaipur and the Gond kingdom of Devgarh also. He also intervened in the War of Successions. He extracted annual tributes from these territories. But here also he never tried to permanently conquer all these territories. He would just extract tributes. In the year 1752, in a treaty with Mughals, Marathas agreed to provide protection to Mughals also. Like, Mughals were becoming so weak that they sought the protection from Marathas now, and Marathas were becoming so strong that they installed their chosen candidate in Mughal throne. So here we can imagine the limit of, like, the strength of Marathas. Like, they were appointing their candidate in the Mughal throne. They also had a short expedition in Punjab, but they could not stand there. However, Nana Sahib had mastery over large part of the northern India, but he never made any attempt to establish an empire, except in Khandesh, Malwa and Gujarat, where he tried to install some kind of administration. Otherwise, he was just interested in Chowth and Sadasmukhi. As a whole, Marathas were interested just in Chowth and Sadasmukhi, and money also. Because it was difficult also to deal or maintain stability in the, like, diverse nature of Indian polity, it was difficult for them also. Maybe that was the reason when Ahmad Shah Abdali finally invaded in the year 1761, it gave a deadly blow to the prestige and the glory of the Marathas. Now, if we have to discuss the decline of Marathas, we have to discuss the Third Battle of Panipat, which was fought in the year 1761, 14th January. Here we see the Afghan leader Ahmad Shah Abdali invading over India. He was invading Delhi, but Delhi sought the protection of Marathas now. So when he invaded, Delhi was held by the indigenous forces, like those by Rohillas, and Suja-ud-Dawla also helped. Now, we mentioned that earlier also. See, if Marathas were able to form a united empire, not just being interested in Chowth or Sadasmukhi, they could have handled Ahmad Shah Abdali quite easily, but then that was not done by Marathas, and then Maratha forces under the under the leadership of Sadasiv Rao Bhau was defeated by the Abdali's force. Peshwa Nana Sahib also died within few weeks, and then he was succeeded by Madhav Rao. Well, that is all for today. We'll continue further in the next class. Thank you so much.
This and other episodes of Radio EduPods, Radio for Learning, are available on Listen to My Radio app at 6 p.m. from Monday to Friday and at 6 a.m. from Tuesday to Saturday. All episodes are available on Salesian TV YouTube channel. Share, like and subscribe Salesian TV, the ultimate learning resource channel.